Hello my lovelies, and welcome back to my channel. Today on this very cold Florida day, it's 34 outside, I want to say. It's freezing. Long sleeves. I rarely wear long sleeves. Today I'm going to make a Loly Backpack. It's a backpack by Cuting. She's not a pattern designer in the conventional sense. She designs pattern, but she doesn't have a website where she sells them. If you want to purchase this website, you would need to Facebook message her. I can leave you her profile link in the video description, so you can send her a private message and ask her for an invoice for the pattern. She does have a lot of patterns for free on her YouTube channel. I will link her YouTube channel as well. You'll find her video for the Loly as well. She is not from US or an English speaking country, I think, because her patterns don't have any voiceovers or anything like that. So I do encourage you to look over them, support her channel, and if you want to sew with me as well, I encourage you to stick around, because I'll be making my first Loly right now, and I'll give you some of my imperial measurements as well, not just the metric ones that she included in the pattern. It looks like a fairly easy, straightforward pattern. I went ahead and cut my pieces, so you will have a piece that will wrap around the front and the bottom. There is no bottom piece with the pattern, so if you're using a directional print, it would need to be laid like this. If you're using image, make sure that your image that you want to feature is at the top of the center pattern piece, not at the bottom, because this will be the bottom of the backpack. So that's my first tip for you. There is no bottom piece. Then you have two side pieces, and they're both interfaced. This is woven from Backstitch Fabrics. This is the Creatures panel set from Backstitch, and this is woven. So I interfaced this with woven interfacing, and then I sewed in foam. All pieces have this. Then you have a top part which will have the zipper. It's a very cool zipper pocket, and again this is interfaced with woven interfacing and foam. And then you have a back piece of the pattern, and this is cork. I'm testing this new cork for Wizardry. You might want to hang around their Facebook group to see some cool new stuff coming in 2021. And this is interfaced with foam interfacing. So this is sewn in foam that I got from Joanne. As always, you know the drill. Everything I use will be linked in the description below. I also am going to line this with waterproof canvas. This is from Amazon. Actually, one of you guys, and thank you so much for that, messaged me after my last video with the H2O, or the one before that, with the H2O from Lynn's Handmade. And I was mentioning there that I don't know where to buy waterproof canvas outside of the Walmart Turf Pro one that I've been using. And she messaged me and sent me this Amazon link, and it's really nice, really nice. It came in a huge roll, like it doesn't come folded, it comes rolled, and it's 60 inches wide, and it's a good price. The yellow one was the cheapest, because that's why I got yellow, just to test it out to see if I like it. And this was like $7.75 a yard. It's not bad at all, and they have all kinds of colors. I'm going to link that in the description, and thank you guys for looking out for me. I really appreciate it. So this is what I'm going to use for lining. All the pieces that I've shown so far are pattern pieces that come with, that she sends you when you purchase the pattern. So the pattern itself will have a tutorial, but the tutorial doesn't have any words. It's just photos. So if you want to follow along with me on YouTube, that would be awesome. But it looks fairly easy. This is how it will look like at the end. The backpack, it has a cute diagonal zipper. I love it. Great for panels too. So the pattern pieces are included. So these are all cut from the pattern. There's also an interior pocket, and again, these are pattern pieces that I'm using. The rest of the patterns that I'm going to give you the measurements for are not in the pattern, they are in the tutorial and they're in centimeters. So if you're an imperial user, I'll give you the measurements right now. So for the handle, which is this one, I cut a piece. She uses in the pattern, she uses pre-made handles and straps. So I'm gonna make my own, sort of. My handle is, 1 second, because I wrote them down for you. 9 inches by 4 inches. So 9 by 4, this is for the handle. Then I have 2 connectors for the straps, and these are 4 by 2, 2 of them, 2 by 4 inches, and I'm using cork for that one as well. And then I'm using a zipper by the yard, of course, Wizardry, Stitchery and Crafts, what else? And this is their, I don't know the exact name for this awesome blue one, but it's the Daydream tape. Look how pretty that is. And their pulls, of course, with the Phoenix and the Monster book. I already put this on. This is the zipper. You need at least a 19-inch zipper piece. You're gonna have to cut the excess, but make it at least 19 to have access to cut. And then you need webbing for the straps, unless you want to make your own. But I'm gonna use just 1-inch webbing for the straps because it's easier. Honestly, that's the only reason. It's just easier because it's already made. This is 1-inch webbing, and you need 33-inch webbing for each strap. So you need 2 of those. I just realized that I didn't put my 2 there. So 33-inch, and I'm using 1-inch webbing. If you're using 1.5-inch webbing, but I can tell you from another backpack that I made, it's not as comfortable. 1 inch is much more comfortable when worn than the 1.5. But if you're using 1.5, make sure you adjust the hardware that you need to accommodate the 1.5. But for 1 inch, I'm using this one, and then I have 2 rectangle rings that are 1 inch for the connectors, and then 2 sliders, of course rainbow finish, what else, of course Wizardry, what else. And I'm going to use this because the webbing is not thick. This will work beautifully. You don't need the ginormous one. If you're making your own straps out of leather or vinyl or cork, I would recommend using the Gigantor sliders that Melissa carries in her shop, because this will not thread as easily. Alright, so let's get started. Of course I'm using rainbow thread because I have not taken it off my my machine ever since I got it from Melissa. This is Tex 80 because I'm using an industrial, but she did have a pre-order for various other weights for this unicorn main fabric. Okay, let's see. I'm going to start by creating the extras. So we'll create the handle first and then the connector and set them aside, and then we'll start the actual construction for the backpack. Okay, so for the handle, take your piece and fold it in half like so along the long side towards the center, and then fold it one more time, and this will yield you a 1-inch handle. Place it, or use Wonder Tape if you prefer. I have yet to order my Wonder Tape, so I just have a little scrap left. We're going to sew this all around with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. My God, this cork is so pretty. And it works beautifully with this thread. Let the mess begin. Okay, so this is your handle. You can leave it like this if you want and just tack it on when we get to that step, or you can make yourself like a rolled handle. So I'm going to mark 2 inches on each side for where I'll stop and start. And I'm not going to add any cording. So I'm going to sew in between this, maybe 1.5 inches. Maybe I'll do 2.5. Oh, this pattern follows 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, so from here to here, from the insides of this, I'm going to place this in half, fold it in half. And I have like 8 layers of cork, so if you're not comfortable putting your machine through this, don't worry about it. Like, just leave it like this is perfectly fine. I do want the roll handle because I haven't made one in a while. So I'll just put a couple of clips here. But again, remember I have 8 layers of vinyl, so it's up to you how comfortable you are with this thickness. And I will do the 2 inches on each side. I changed my mind yet again. You know how I roll, right? It's not a surprise if you've been at my channel before. Okay, so I'm going to stitch along the first line of stitching just like so. And there's no cord inside, it's just folded. And I'll try my best to go right on top of the first line of stitching. Again, optional step. Don't feel like you need to fight with your machine for this if it doesn't want to. Done. So this will be your handle now. This is the style that she uses in the pattern, but she gets them, I think, pre-made. And so that makes me believe that they're available pre-made. I tend not to make I make my own straps. There you go. So the handle is ready. Set that aside. Let's work on the connectors. So this is a 2-inch wide piece, so I'm just going to fold it towards the inside, 1/2 inch. Put a couple of clips on each side. And just stitch it down along the 2 sides with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Again, if you have wonder tape, double-sided tape, this will work great for this step. Okay, so now take your connector and place your 1-inch rectangle through it and just stitch it down. Or you can rivet it if you want, whatever you prefer. I don't think I might have just 2 rainbow rivets left. I need to talk to Melissa and get some more. And of course we're going to repeat the same step for the other strap. This will yield you 1 inch wide strap. So if you prefer to use 1.5 inch webbing and 1.5 inch hardware, then you would need to cut these pieces instead of 2 inches wide. You would need to cut them 3 inches wide. This way they'll work with 1.5 inch. Perfect. Alright, now that we have our first prep work done, so handle and connector finished, let's start the actual construction of the bag. So you'll have to attach your side pieces to the center piece like so. So we're going to start from the top and just pin it in place. This pattern follows a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. You're easing in 2 curves, a convex and a concave one, but they will work. Use as many pins as you feel comfortable and you feel like you need to use. Oops. So this is how it looks like, one side pinned in place, the right sides together, and I'm gonna go ahead and stitch it down with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Just want to double check the seam allowance. Okay. Go slow, make sure there's no puckers when you sew this curve. This backpack, as I make it right now, can easily be done on a domestic machine. Because I'm using woven, I'm using cork, except for the handle, the middle part of the handle, I think your domestic sewing machines will be able to rock this pattern. It's woven with foam and cork. So we'll repeat the same thing for the other side, again, using in the 2 curves, and then we'll repeat it for the lining. Now I'm debating top stitching it. before I add this. I'm actually gonna go ahead and top stitch it before I add this piece. And I'll top stitch with the seam allowance towards the outside. This thread will pop now. Just wait and see. I feel like top stitching will also take some of the pressure off the seams. Because I plan on using this at Universal, which means I'm going to put stuff in it. Oh, it's so cute. Alright, so let's get back to where I left off. It's a pretty hefty size backpack. It's not big, but it's not a mini style for sure. And I bet you my kids will take it from me. Have you guys started your holiday sewing? I have not sewn anything for the holidays, and I probably won't even have time to do it. But I've started a new hobby, because you know how we are, you can never have enough hobbies. I'm doing sublimation on stuff. Like, give me a thing with polyester in it and I'll sublimate something on it. So I've been making some like coasters for Christmas. That's as much crafting for Christmas that I've done so far. I plan on making a couple of wreaths, but that's it. For the rest, there's Kirkland's. Any other Kirkland's fans out there? I love that store. Man, I love that store. Alright, so I'll go ahead and top stitch this. Again, I'll put the seam allowance towards the panel, the side panel. Gorgeous. So pretty. So this is, it will have like a back piece here. So this is pretty much the bottom part, like I told you before. Oh, it's so good. All right, so now to the boring part. Repeat the same steps for the lining. Nothing fancy about the lining, just bright yellow. You might find it easy when you do this to snip about less than a quarter of an inch. Make some snips along the straight edge. It is always easier to ease a curve into a straight edge if you have some snips done to release some of that pressure of the straight edge. All right. I love a good pattern with few pattern pieces. And I feel like this one really doesn't have a lot of pattern pieces. My least favorite part of making things, and that includes bags too, is cutting the pattern pieces and the fabric. I love the sewing part and creating and choosing, but the actual cutting is not my favorite. So if the pattern has just like 10 pieces, works great for me. Okay, let me top stitch this, but why not? Repeat for the last side. Let me do the snips before. I'm just snipping a little bit. It will help me ease the curves better. Especially with the waterproof canvas that's very stiff and has no stretch. When you use woven, for example, because this curve is cut on the bias, there's a minimal stretch, so that helps. But with this, there's zero with the waterproof canvas. And I find that it's also easier to stitch with the straight edge down and the curved edge up. I find that it stitches easier like this instead of like this. Don't ask me. I'm sure there's a logical explanation why. I just don't have it. And I just need to go slow, and then we are done with this part. All right, set this to a side for now and grab your pocket piece so we don't forget to create that. So your pocket piece is very easy. It's super straightforward. Right sides together. We're going to sew it all around, leaving an opening, preferably at the top because we'll top stitch that first. Super, super easy. So I'm going to sew this down. Back stitch at the beginning and at the end, and these are right sides together. I've used this from my leftover panel piece. The back stitch woven panels are a yard long, so you have plenty of fabric left over for linings and for like pockets. Oops, a little too much. Alright, so I'm gonna trim the corners just to make it crisp when I turn it. And turn it right side up. Forgot my little poker. This one has only one pocket inside this pattern. This is the pocket that is the only one. But again, the possibilities are endless now. Once you have the shell of the backpack, you can add like accordion pockets or zipper pockets with welt pocket. Like you can take pretty much any pocket from your favorite pattern and following the same technique, add it to any pattern, including this one. This is gonna be just the easiest one possible, like a patch pocket. And I'm a big fan of these. It's great to keep your phone away from everything else. And it's very easy to make, as you can see. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and stitch the top closed. You can give it a good press right now, because from turning it inside out, it got a little wrinkly. Okay, and we're going to, oh, I didn't poke this one out altogether. Off. That's what happens when I'm in a hurry. So let me try to poke it out with a pin. Or you can all pretend you didn't see anything. I mean, it's gonna be in the inside of the bag, nobody will see it, but I'll see it, I'll know it's there. Come on. There you go. Much better now. Poked out. Oop. Crisis averted. Okay, so you're going to take your back lining piece and you're going to place your pocket. I don't think she gives any measurements, but I'm going to give you some measurements. If I can find my little tool. There it is. So let's place this 2 inches up from the bottom. So 2 inches from the bottom and 1.25 inches on each side. 1.5 inches on each side. Okay, so let's do 1.5 inches here and then 1.5 inches here. I need to make sure it's centered. And then we'll do 2 inches at the bottom. Perfect. And then we'll stitch it down. And you're going to stitch it down along the 3 sides. Of course, you'll leave the top open. You might want to use Wonder Tape to hold it in place. now we know we won't forget the pocket. This thread is so amazing. Look how beautiful it is. Alright, so again, it's 1.5 inch on each side here at the top and 2 inches from the bottom. Alright, so grab your zipper now. And we're going to add the top part of the zipper first. So I cut mine at 19 inches. So I'm going to start by stitching it right side down. Make sure you have a little bit of an excess on both sides. And I'm going to stitch this. She does something really nice in the pattern, and I love that. She uses zipper by the tape, by the yard, so zipper tape, but she just stitches each of the tapes without it being put together with the zipper pulls, and I do think that that would be a little easier. However, knowing that I like to have like perfect double pulls, I know for me it might be easier just to do like this, but if you see her pattern tutorial, you'll notice that she adds the 2 zipper tapes totally open one from another. I'll try to do it my way and see. Maybe she's onto something and I'm just making it way more complicated for me. And this is sewn with 1/4 inch seam allowance. And again, I'll have to move my pulls. If you use her style of attaching it, you won't have any pulls added to the tape. She just adds them afterwards. I feel like it might be more difficult to add the pulls once the tape is already sewn in, but I may be wrong. I'll have to give it a try sometime. Beautiful. So now I will repeat the same step, but I'm going to place the lining right sides together with the main. So this way my zipper is sandwiched in between. And I'll sew from the other side, hopefully right on top of my previous stitch line. This will be the top of the backpack. There you go. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch along this side. You guys can totally make this pattern. It's very easy. So far, straightforward to the point. Okay. And now we're gonna go ahead and top stitch 1/8 inch away from the zipper. just gorgeous. I will top stitch anything just so I can look at this beautiful thread. So now we're going to repeat the same thing, the same steps on the front part with the front and the lining. But before you do that, find the center of, so I'm aligning my edges, and I'm going to do a little snip on the center because I want to make sure I'm putting the zipper on the center. So then I'll do this here and find my center on the top. So now my zipper tape will match, my center zipper tape will match the center of the top, and I will put a pin in there. And then repeat exactly what we did for the top part. This will be create the opening. And you'll see on the side panel there's a corner here in the pattern piece. This is where the zipper will end. So I'll show you on the pattern piece here. This is the side panel. So see this corner here? This is where the zipper will end. And again, the zipper is a 19-inch piece with the double pull. I will link the video that I've made, the basics video that I made for the zippers, and I show you there how to add a double pull as well. And I talk about various zippers for bag making if you're new. So I'm sewing around with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. My pulls. Gonna look so good, so good. Alright, see how easy I get distracted? You guys know me by now. So now I'm pushing all this inside, and I'm going to add the lining. Let me find the center of the top of the lining, and I'm going to be sandwiching the zipper in between the lining and the main. First I match the centers and then right sides together. So I'm gonna try to push this out like this and stick it in here. So now it looks kind of like a bowl, if you wish. I'll pin it in place, and then I'm going to stitch on top of the previous stitch line. This is a fun looking bowl. Alright, so we're going to stitch along this edge. We stopped at the corners on each side of the side panel. I flipped it because I want to sew on top of the previous stitch line, but you don't have to. As long as you keep your 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, it will be this on top of this previous stitch line anyways. I love this style of backpacks where the lining is stitched into the main, like it's not floating around. I love this. This is what I plan on doing actually for my mini backpack. Alright, so I'm going to flip it so the wrong sides are together, and I'm going to top stitch. Like right inside of the hole. It will be my top stitching. It's weird, but it's gonna work. Stitch inside the ball. Go slow, don't stitch on top of your fingers. Or the side of your fingers for that matter. And go slow, especially where the side seams meet the center panel. The side panel meets the center panel because there's a lot of bulk in that seam allowance. It may not be the most perfect top stitch ever, but hey, you know my drill. I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for a custom bag that I made myself. I'm not selling it to anyone. I don't charge for it. It's just for me. Oh, it's so beautiful. So beautiful. Now I'm going to go ahead and flip it right side out so I can trim any excess zipper. I don't have much excess zipper, so if you want to cut your zipper at 20 inches to have excess, that's fine, but if you cut it at 19, I forgot to top stitch. Look at this, this is so silly. I forgot to top stitch one of the linings. I mean, don't forget to top stitch both. I'm not gonna do anything about it right now. I don't care that much to fix it, but yeah, top stitch both. Word to the wise. Okay, so this is what it's gonna look like. Well, now we have to add the back part. Before we add the back main panel, let's go ahead and place our handle and the side connectors. So for the handle, I'm going to find the center and mark it with a snip, and on each side I'm going to mark an inch on each side. Then I'll take my handle and place it at that marking point like so. So the inside of the handle is 1 inch away from the center. Okay. So this is the center, and the inside of each side of the handle is 1 inch away from the center. I'm going to stitch that down. And this is right sides together. I backstitch a few times just in case I need to have the additional strength. Not that I carry my backpacks on the handle too many times. Okay, so this is the handle on the back. And then I'm going to place my strap connectors. And again, I don't know the measurements. I don't think she even gives measurements in the pattern where to place them. Huh, I just realized looking now that I think she adds the pocket. Oh yeah, I realize now she does the pocket differently. She cuts it on fold, but I cut it to different fabrics, so it doesn't really matter. And then she adds the pocket to the centerpiece. I didn't want that. I want the pocket on the back. So you might find this discrepancy that my pocket is on the back piece, and that's fine. That's where I prefer it. I don't want it on the front of the backpack. Unless you add two, and then you can do my way and the cute things way, and you have two pockets. Okay, let me see if she says anything about where to place the straps. And no, she doesn't say anything. How far down? She also places the straps very high up here. I'm not used to them being this close to the top. I mean, that's a personal preference, so I'll figure that out after. For now, we're going to do this. We're going to place this, so the seam allowance will be about 3/8. We're going to place this 1.5 inches. No, 1 inch. So 1 inch, let's do 1 inch from the bottom. And we're going to put them like so. So this is, okay, so this is the bottom, this is 1 inch. So I'm going to place them like so on both sides. And stitch them down. I think 1 inch from the bottom is plenty. This way the seam allowance won't be bothered by the connectors, but they're also not too high. Okay, so let's do the same thing on the other side. I'm gonna measure 1 inch from the bottom. And then place them. I'll use a pin, and then I'll just fold them in half to double check that they're on the same, because they should be overlapping when I folded this in half. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that the measurements were symmetrical. connectors are added, so let's add the strap. First, let's cut 2 straps. So I said 33 inches, right? So 33 inches twice. And seal your ends with a lighter. This color works so great with this cork and works great with the blue of the zipper and the blue of the panels. All right, so she adds them here under the handles. I don't want to do that, so I'm gonna go ahead and do this. I'll add them to the center like so. So we have the center snip right here. So I'm going to add my webbing at the center and place it like so, so on an angle. You see how I laid it here on an angle? You want to do that. And you could have, if we did it in one step, we could have sewn only one time. Okay. I went a few times because there's going to be pressure on the straps. Alrighty, so that is done. We can now start the final steps of the construction, and we'll finish the handle last. I recommend you put these away from the edges because if you don't want to get them chapped, so I just roll them and stick them here with some clips. There, like so. All right. So now let's find the center top. We have it. I'm going to find the center of the bottom and do a snip like so. And then I'm going to find the center of the top of the backpack and then the bottom, and those will be matched. And I'm going to snip both the lining and the main at the same time. Alright, take the lining away. It's going to be easier if you work like this, inside the bowl like this. So we'll place the back right sides together, matching the centers at the top and at the bottom. We'll pin in place and then we'll stitch all around it. Going to stitch the lining as well. I don't want it loose. Okay, so I'll do all layers like so. This is what I was saying, that it's my favorite way to do a backpack. This way the lining is stitched into the main. There's nothing being loose or wrinkly inside after you turn it. I love this style. Oh, and before I forget, open your zippers up a little bit. And if you feel like you have a hard time using the curves, remember, do little snips. Oh. I wanted to include this. Not a lot of designers use this style of lining a backpack. But for me, it's the easiest one and my most favorite. So now I have both the lining and the main stitched into the main backpack back. And when you stitch here, it will also create the zipper stop, because there's no stops right now. Alright, so this is how it looks like. You have the lining, right side of the lining, and this is the back. Only the main part. You still have your lining loading here. Alright, so now you're going to want to stitch all around this with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Go slow, you need to make sure you catch all the layers, and where the zipper is, I like to do a little back stitch there. Make sure there's no puckers. And again, go slow where you have your handles. And your connector. Definitely an easy and straightforward pattern. And I'm sewing all around. Go slow on the curves and where the handle is, the connector is. Alright, we only have one more step, which is to add the lining. Before I do that, I want to make sure that everything is nice and hot in the seams, no puckers or anything. Well, as best as I can, because I don't want to turn it right now. Just checking with my naked eye. Okay, it looks good. So, last step, we want to sandwich the whole backpack. So you're gonna flatten it out. And you want to sandwich this in the lining, like so. And you're going to leave an opening at the bottom, and you'll be birthing the backpack through that opening. So let's find the center of the bottom, and then the center of the top. And you want to match how well to sandwich this. You want to match it at the top and then match the bottom and then pin in place all around. This might be the hardest step to sew because you have the whole backpack sandwiched in there, but it's not impossible. Don't forget to leave the opening. Okay, so my opening will be between the two yellow clips. And move your zippers away from the edge so you don't break the needle. And poke your eye. Half of it is done. Let's pin the other half. That is a big sandwich, let me tell you. Now this is a case of the more pins the better, honestly. Now, if you like to use staples, I know a lot of bag makers like to staple this instead of using pins or on top of using pins. I am terrified of sewing through one of those staples. I've tried it once, not my preferred method, but it might work for you guys, so you can try if you want, just to staple it around the corners. Okay, move the zipper away. And make sure the zipper pull is away too. Ooh, my hands are hurting. Lots of pins at the curve. Alright, so let's do this. I think I've put enough pins in there to take the pressure off the curves. So we're gonna sew it all around, leaving a big opening right here, like as big as you can get it. Start from this side and go all around. Slow on the curve. If you want to ease some of the pressure that's put on these seams, you can go ahead and do another row of stitching about 1/8 of an inch away from this initial one. Oh, it's not big. I thought it would be bigger than this, the backpack. It's just perfect for the parts. I need to make myself one for Disney too, for sure. I went a couple of times when at the zipper, went over the zipper clip, and a couple of times over the straps and the strap connector. All right. I got back to the bottom. Look how many clips I used. Oh my. Oh, I'm afraid to turn it. I'm afraid to turn it. Okay, before I turn it, I want to make sure I caught everything. Because it will be a pain to redo these stitches. If I didn't. It looks like I did. Fingers crossed. Let's cross our fingers that it looks good when I turn it. Ready, set, go. Let's see. Now I'm thinking a bigger opening might have been better. Not the easiest backpack to birth, probably. But hey, I didn't have to do any drop-in linings. I didn't have to do any weird stuff. So I'll take 5 minutes of birthing hardship versus a drop-in lining. Come on. It will definitely need a good pressing after this. I might need to do this off camera. My hands are hurting today. It's probably because it's so cold outside. I'm giving up on the small hole. I'm snipping a few more threads to make the hole a tiny bit bigger. Not much, but a little bit on each side. It might help. Oh, I can see it. I can see it. It's me, it's not the pattern. I don't know why my hands are hurting today. Ah, yes, 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 yes. You guys can fast forward through this. I was thinking of doing this off camera, but then you would miss the aha moment. The ah. Word to the wise, leave a big opening. It's the foam. It makes it harder to turn, but not impossible. Almost there. So close to the aha moment, and so much pressing that I'll have to do afterwards. I can feel it, how much pressing I'm gonna have to do. Ah! Yes, 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 yes. It looks so good. It looks so good. And of course you're gonna have to close that opening on the bottom. You can hand stitch it if you can, machine stitch it, but it might be a very difficult angle. This time is the only time that I'll probably hand stitch it, because the lining is attached to the main. It's gonna be difficult to machine stitch it. I promise you, once you give it a good press, it's gonna look like $1,000,000. Poke your sides out. Oh, this poor cork. It's been through a battle. It's my little cork. But so far it's performing very well, even having been put through this craziness. Obviously it will be pressed. Oh, you can also use, there's a double-sided tape that I learned about at a sewing expo, that you can just press it on the seam of the inside, and it's gonna be like machine washable and whatnot. It's not gonna come undone. I don't have it, but I'm gonna look for it. And I should have put my handles the other way, probably. This is so pretty. All right, it's gonna look much prettier once I sew it. All right, so let's do the straps, and then it's all done. We'll press it and we'll admire it. So take one of the straps. Right now you have a strap that's loose and a connector. So you're gonna take your glider, pull it through one time, then down on the other side, and then through the connector, making sure it's not twisted, and then back through the left side, up, down on the right side of the bar, and stitch it in place. This is going to be your strap. Let's repeat it slow. First step, make sure that the strap is not twisted. Okay, it's flat. Then you're gonna take your strap end, push it up and then down. So left, if you look at the strap this way, right, up, down, left, and then you pull it through the handle, and then you bring it back up to the strap the same way you did the first step. Right, and then down on the left a couple of inches, and you pin it in place, and then you stitch it down. So this is how the strap will look like. Make sure before you stitch it down that it's not twisted. It looks good. So let's go ahead and stitch it inside. You can do a couple of lines of stitching. You can do like an X. And this is how it looks like. Stitch down, and you just adjust it from there. And of course, repeat the same thing for the other strap. We're gonna go ahead and stitch down. The same way. And this is the last sewing step of this backpack. Well, except for the hand sewing the interior shut. Broken it. And there you have it. So now you adjust the strap however you want for your back. You give your backpack a good press. Make sure if you press where the cork is, you use a Teflon sheet or a cotton woven press. I'll press this and then I'll post some pictures, of course. And you also need to stitch the inside closed. So one way to do this is again to turn it. Now it's gonna be easier to turn it right now. Or you can hand stitch inside the backpack if you want. This is the opening that we need to stitch down. I might as well just do it now before I press it. This would probably be best handled hand stitched. But you know me and my aversion to hand stitching. and I'm trying to sew on top of the seam allowance, like right here. How much will it annoy me that I forgot to top stitch the side? Very much. Enough for me to fix it? No, but very much. And as you can see, my pocket is on the back piece, not on the front. So if you want the pocket on this side, on the front side, you gotta follow the tutorial that Cute Thing has on her website, on her YouTube channel, and the photos in the pattern. Now I'm done. Now I don't have to turn it again, so I can just press it and enjoy it. See, my pocket is right here. Hers would be right here. You see, mine is on the back, and I like it better. Right now, but this is it. This is the Loly Backpack by Cute Thing. Everything, as always, will be linked in the description of the tutorial. Now, this is a great size. I mean, it's very because of its shape, it holds a lot of stuff without taking a lot of real estate. It's let me tell you, about 12 inches at the longest part. It's about 6 inches in width, and at the widest is about 9.5. So decent size, not too big, not too small. Once I give it a press, it's gonna look even better. Fabric, it's from Backstitch Fabric. Zipper tape, and all the good stuff. It's from Wizardry Stitchery. Look at this phoenix. How perfect it is. Look at this zipper pull with this panel. So perfect. And there you have it. Thank you so much once again for joining me and sewing with me a Loly Backpack. I hope you enjoyed it and you're gonna make your own. Show me on Facebook if you do. And of course, as always, feel free to comment with any pattern suggestions you would like to see featured on my channel, and any tips and tricks and videos you would like to see. Please subscribe, like, share, and turn on the notifications so you can see any new videos that I upload. And I will talk to you in my next one. Bye!